say Martians, what are you thinking about? I mean, if this was the old radio shows in the 50s and going to be the War of the Worlds, believe it or not, people would panic. And now I'm telling you there's going to be Martians in your routers. Well, kind of, sort of. Okay, not much to worry about. No illegal aliens or anything like that. Although we could bring in, the customs and enforcement guys. I'm sure that they would help us out with this. But there are reasons that we have Martians in our routers. These are actually just a type of route and a type of reason, by the way, for why some routes do not become part of the active routing table. So let's kind of go into our router and take a look. We're at the tail end of doing a show route here real quick, and let's see exactly where these come from. So hidden routes are definitely a concern, or potential concern anyway, on production networks. A route may be hidden because it has an invalid next hop address. Basically, you say go this way, but I have no idea what that way happens to be. It's kind of like giving you directions on the street. I can say we can get there, we can get to this nice ice cream place, but you go right down Main Street. And you're sitting there going, well, I have no earthly idea how to get to Main Street, so telling me to go that way doesn't do me any good whatsoever. So that will make it a hidden route. A policy can also make it a hidden route. So if you're not allowed to drive on Main Street, well, any routes going to Main Street really are not very helpful. Another thing that we may have, and this kind of brings up a new concept along the way, is that if a route or the next hop to a route is what we call a Martian address, then that will also make it invalid. So something that we're not allowed to do. Martian addresses are kind of interesting. They're a thing that we can find in other devices as well, but more so by policy. In Junos, we have things pre-configured, and we can take a look in here, do a show route Martian, and this will tell us pretty much what is allowed or not allowed as far as routing happens to be concerned. So when we see anything with any IP address in the 0/8 range, so basically starting with a 0, it can't be a next hop. Anything in the loopback range, so my 127/8, can't be a next hop. Anything within the 192/24, this is a reserved set of addresses by the IETF, is not going to be allowed. Anything in my multicast range, so 224, anything in the, reserved or experimental range, my 240/4, those things by default are not going to be allowed. I can put information in here as well, saying as far as what is or is not going to be allowed as next hops. And a lot of people will control policy automatically by this. So one example, let's take a look at our private addresses. Okay, so my RFC 1918 range. Okay, so what do I have in here? I have the 10.0.0.0/8. I have 172.16.00/12, that goes to 31, and I have 192.168.0.0/16. Normally, these are private, so they're not going to exist on the internet. I may set that up as being Martian addresses and say disallowed. Now, at the same time, if I do have private addresses inside my own network, well, that would kind of mess things up a little bit. So I may take the more specific ranges that I have. So let's say that inside my network, I've based everything on a 10.100.0.0/16, and everything is in that range. I could say allow for this, and at the same time I can say disallow for those. And that would prevent me that in case I ever got an extra, router, somebody set up a rogue router or something like that, or, tried to inject routes into my network, or if BGP messed up, whatever the reason happens to be. But if at any point in time I started getting routes that says, hey, the next hop is 10.1.4.16, well, by default, it's not in here, so it would be up here and would be disallowed. So I would see those routes, but they would all show up as hidden routes and would not be part of my packet forwarding. So this is actually a good thing that we can do to develop protection on our routers. The whole concept a little bit more advanced than we're going to get into at JNCIA, other than identifying what the potential for a hidden route happens to be and actually know what this terminology is and what it's going to actually lead to in there. So that's really kind of the keys that I want to hit by describing what the Martian is. When we start looking at more advanced classes, then we're going to get into some of the details and exactly why we do things with the Martians. But we can see these in here, the defaults, we can see all the different tables as far as where they're allowed, where they're not allowed, and why. Okay, so that's kind of just an introduction to this stuff as to where we're going to get into this. So let's take a look over at a live router real quick. Okay, so we got some of the ideas as far as where we were going before. We can do a show route hidden, and it will give us some of the information about the different routes. Remember, we had 55 hidden routes here, so we got a few to look at. Now notice on the table here, this gives me the list of routes that are hidden, but doesn't exactly tell me why about it, or what the information is as to why they are hidden in there. But never fear, there's always more information to be had. All we gotta do is do an up arrow and hit detail, and now all of a sudden we're gonna see exactly why. This is hidden because it was from a Martian interface. This is a hidden Martian route and a no re-advertise route. Okay, so it kind of gives us the information as we cycle through here. And we'll see it as the state for each one tells us every single one as to why it is. Now, pretty much they all appear to be the same reason as we go through here. So we don't have a lot of variety on here, but at least it tells us why the routes are not part of the active routing table and why we really don't need to be afraid of the Martians. Keep your ray guns inside, we're all good to go. Tinfoil hats, well, you might still need those with the NSA and everything, but beyond that, we're all good to go. Never fear the Martians.
Where was the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.